Podcast is on Matthew chapter 16, verse 18, where it says, I say to you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. We're going to break this down and have a look at this today, and look at particularly two words in particular. The word Peter, which was translated as rock, and the word church. And we're going to get a better understanding, a deeper understanding of what it means in the light of this breakdown. All right, so let's have a look first. So here are the phrases we're looking at. This is Matthew 16:18. Maybe I'll just stick my face down out of the way like that so you can see better. Right, and so here it goes. These are the words we're looking at. And I now to you say, you are Peter, Petros, and on this, the Petra, feminine form, Petros, masculine form, Petra, feminine form, I will build my ecclesian, okay? Ecclesian. So ecclesian, this word is translated as church. This is the Greek word for church. I think I've got the Greek word for church up here somewhere. There it is. Church, ecclesia in modern Greek. And that's coming from here, ecclesian. Comments about this word, ecclesian. It comes in the Septuagint, in a translation of the Old Testament first. It's got its Greek, Strong's Greek number 1577, and it has assembly, religious congregation, church, the whole body of Christian believers, etc. In total, it's got 114 occurrences in the New Testament. And in the Old Testament, this word, by the way, just so you know, this word only appears 3 times in the Gospels themselves, and only in Matthew 16 and Matthew 18. So it doesn't occur many times, only 3 times. And then most of it is in the epistles after the Acts, and the epistles after that make a lot of mention to the ecclesia. But it's only mentioned 3 times in Matthew, and suddenly becomes a very big thing. In the Septuagint, it's one of the words which is used to translate several different words for congregation. One is kehal, one is eda, and the other is kanisa. Sorry, kanes, which is to assemble. Kanisa is Arabic, sorry. So we've got this word, and when we try to find a concordance meaning for this word in the Old Testament, it's not going to work, because it's used to translate several different Hebrew words in the same way, with a general meaning of gatherings, coming together. Now this word does appear, I'm going to give you an example here in the Septuagint, for example, here in the book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 16. There it is again. You can see. What does that say? Ecclesiason. Okay. Ecclesiason. You can see, again, there's the ecclesia there. Same as the word here. This is ecclesian. And here we have it, ecclesiason, in Esther chapter 4, verse 16. So if we look at this verse from Esther, we can have a look at the Hebrew word which it's translating here. Just to give you an example of one of the words that it translates, and it's there, gather. So, kanus, okay? This word is Strong's Hebrew 3664. To gather, to collect, gathering, assemble, and hence you've got the same as ecclesia as well, collected. And this word has 11 occurrences in the Old Testament there. Okay, so you can have a look through in your own time to see. In Ecclesiastes, here in Ecclesiastes is interesting, isn't it? Because Ecclesiastes, it's got 2:8, 2:26, 2 and 3:5, gather, collecting, collected. The thing is, we tend to think of Ecclesiastes as the correct translation for this, even though we just saw that it's kanesa, kanasti, I collected, I gathered. I don't know where, but when we translate this book, Ecclesiastes, into from Hebrew, the name of the Ecclesiastes is usually given as Kehal, which is why people think that Matthew 16:18 is referring to a Kehal rather than to a Knesa. Okay. Now, Kehal is very different. Kehal is exactly the thing which Jesus did not come for. When he says it's the sick need a physician, I only came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He didn't come for those who are well. He came for those who are sick. It means he didn't come for the Kehal, which is actually those who are, in top condition. So to understand this word church as a translation of ecclesia, meaning in the same sense as the meaning of the book of Ecclesiastes, is a big mistake, a big error right off the bat, which causes a lot of people to go astray and get the wrong idea about, well, that's basic. I think that this is the root of replacement theology, displacement theology. I think this is the root of it. If you think that what Jesus is talking about here is the Kehal, which is what this is named after, then you're going to go towards displacement theology, replacement theology. So this, I think, is the root of the problem, comes down to this verse, I think. But you saw just now that it's not or is Kehal, it's actually, as in the book of Ecclesiastes, it's actually kanesa, kanes. And as we saw here, sorry, it was which word? Here, this is the word. It's actually this word that we're talking about, kanas. Right, and I'm going to show you some other languages so you can see that in the modern world today, how this is also still existent. So here's the word kanesia, which is church in Hebrew. There's the word there, kanesia, that's H, and that is let's just hide that. That's the translation there. It means church. Okay, another language, Arabic. This is ka-na-i-sa, and this is with a double T on the top. It makes into a double dot on the top, makes it into ta. That's church again, and we have that church. The translation, that's Arabic, kanisa, knesset, and then we have kalisa. This is K-L-I-S-A. Kalisa is the corruption of the N into L sound. This is in Persian. So you've got the same root, but it's been corrupted by the language shift. The N has changed into an L, and it also means church again. So you've got these languages, Persian, Hebrew, Arabic, all with the kanisa kind of meaning for the translation of the word church. None of them are giving anything like Kehal. And the most important one of those, of course, is the Hebrew. Sorry, the Hebrew is this one, where we've not got the word Kehal. We have the word Kinesia. I hope you heard that. So that's the most important one. Here's the Arabic kanisa. Kanisatun, they say. Kanisatun, kanisa. There's another one. So it's spelled kanisa there, but the voice is saying kanisatun. So anyway, we've got these examples. Persian, they don't give the pronunciation for Persian. I'm not sure why. Google doesn't do that, but it is kalisa anyway. That's the pronunciation there. So this is a very strong translation, strong indication that this word here, in harmony with these passages here, Chronicles, Nehemiah, Esther, Psalms, Ecclesiastes, 3 places, Isaiah and Ezekiel, 2 places, that this is the correct meaning or translation here. which is very important point, is that it doesn't mean kehal. So it's not kehal. So he's not saying, I'm going to build a kehal. I'm going to establish a new kehal, which is going to be the correct and true, one true kehal, which is going to replace the kehal outlined in the covenant of Mount Sinai. And that is the foundation of replacement theology, displacement theology, supersessionism, whatever you want to call it. It replaces the old kehal. The old kehal is done away with. A new kehal is in town. And that meaning can't be taken from this word. There are other meanings. And the strongest indication that this wasn't kehal, but was the same word here, kanas, was the intention, the meaning that's behind it, is because of the languages which are translating church as words derived from that ancient Hebrew word kanas. Okay, that's one indication. There's another explanation as well. The other explanation is this: Church of the East using Aramaic. Now, how do you say church in Aramaic? Here it is. It's up here. Eta de Madneha. Eta is church. De Madneha, de is of, Mahneha is the east. Okay, Madneha is the definite article. The east, Madne. Okay, so Eda de Madneha is church of the east, and here's the key word here: church. Okay, Eda, Edta. It's spelled Edta. You see this letters 1, 2, 3, 4. Edta. We have them down here. I copied it for us in advance. Same letters again, 1, 2, 3, 4, Edta. Have a look at it carefully. Pause the video, go back and forth, confirm for yourselves. These are the same word, okay? Okay. Now this word is given to us here with this lexicon: assembly, congregation, church. Eda, it's another word. And another form of it is up here. You see it here. This word here, another form. It's an emphatic state of the same word, Eda. I don't know how to pronounce that because I'm not familiar with this script. I'm familiar with Certo. This is not Certo by the looks of it. But there's another form of the word. This is the emphatic state. Example: when do we see this emphatic state of the word Eda? We see it in this verse, in Matthew 16:18, which I have prepared here in Aramaic for us to have a look at. And you can see it's here. Can you see? There's the word. Let's highlight it. Go back. You see? Pause the video, check back and forth. You can confirm for yourselves. This is indeed the correct word. So there's the word church there, Eda. Now, Eda is also a Hebrew word. So that's another meaning. And again, this Eda refers specifically not to the Kehal. So to understand exactly what Jesus is talking about here, we need to understand how Hebrew society was constructed around something called Yuchasin, which are categories. There are 10 categories of Yuchasin, there are 10 categories of Yuchasin which fit into 3 groups: Group A, Group B, Group C, or Aleph, Bet, and Gimel. Okay, if you like Group A, Group B, Group G, if you prefer. But it's like ABC is the easiest way to understand it. There's Group A, Group B, and Group C. Now, the Kehal is only Group A and Group B, and the rest of the Eda is Group C. So this is not referring to Group A, and it's not referring to Group B. Neither with this evidence that we have, with the linguistic evidence, the correlation of the words coming from the Hebrew word kanas, which is exactly what we refer to congregations in Hebrew today. We call Beit Knesset. And indeed, the government of Israel is called Knesset. The word synagogue, which is the translation which is imposed upon us for Knesset, doesn't actually refer to the Beit Knesset. Although every Beit Knesset, if it's Jewish, it's called synagogue by the others. It's very ironic. It's extremely ironic that we don't have synods. We have Knesset, but the translation into English is basically from the word synod, synagogue. Whereas the church does have synods, but they don't call them the synagogue, they call them the church. It's quite ironic, but if you were going to look linguistically, the church with all of its synods is actually the synagogue, correct translation. And the so-called Jewish synagogues with all of our assemblies are actually the church. So we are actually the church, and what you think is the church is actually the synagogue. But because of the hegemony, that means the powerful forces and their imperial sort of influence on the society, nobody's going to listen to the minority of Jews. They're going to listen to the imperial powers of Europe dictating who is the church and who is the synagogue. But in reality, those who are carrying out the synods are the synagogue, while those who are simply doing kanas are the church. That's one way. And the other way of looking at it is that the church is the Edah. Again, who has the Edah? Edah de Medneha. Edah in Hebrew, Edah Haredit. You've heard me saying it before on this channel. Edah Haredit is like the community. The community of the Haredi community is called Edah Haredit. And Jesus is actually telling in Matthew 23, he tells his disciples, obey the Pharisees. So he's saying that the Edah is actually the Edah Perushit. He's establishing his Kanisa. So we can understand, because he's told his disciples to follow the Pharisees, we understand that is the Edah Perushit. If they were not following the Pharisees, they would be a different Edah. He's telling his disciples to stay inside of the Edah of the Pharisees. The Pharisee Edah is your Edah. That's why you have to do as they say. You're part of the broader Pharisee community. That's what you are. So hence it's Edah Perushit is actually the correct name for the Edah. So then what is this? If it's Edah Perushit is actually the name for the community, the Edah, so it's Edah Perushit. The linguistic origin of the word synagogue has something to do with is completely different. It's not related to anything we've looked at here. It's related to the idea of a government gathering together to carry out legislative authority, exactly as the church canon laws, the synods of the church. Those who carry out legislative or exercise legislative authority in their what do you say, assembly, but it's a different kind of assembly, hence we have the confusion. In the legislative assemblies, okay, the legislative assemblies and carrying out and exercising legislative authority, they are the synagogue. So if you want to understand what he's talking about, he's saying, I'm going to establish my Jewish house of worship, i.e. what you think of as synagogues. Even though, again, this Orwellian newspeak is nothing new, the word synagogue literally meant something completely different. Hence, we don't use the word kehal to refer to our synagogues. If it meant kehal, then in Hebrew we would be calling our synagogues kehel. Okay, but we're not calling them kehal. Okay, we call them knesset, Beit Knesset, houses of assembly, or kanisa, church. That's the translation here. Kanisa, Arabic, church. Kalisa, church. Knessia, church. So our Beit Knesset and the Knessia is the same thing. If we think about the hypocrisy, why aren't we translating this word, which is exactly the same root as the word for Beit Knesset? Why aren't we translating this as synagogue? This one is a church, but the other one is a house of church, Beit Knesset. Why is the Beit Knesset, a house of church, translated as synagogue? And when you take out house of, it's just church. Because of the brainwashing which has gone on from the Roman Christianity, there is a new synagogue in town, the legislative authority of the church